This is the Peter Greenwood Show at the Edinburgh Fringe. We're here talking to lovely people. There's a person sitting next to me. Hello.
Hello.
Could you tell me your name and your show title, please?
Sure, it's Kate Barry, and my show is Kate, Allie, and the 86 Mets.
How are you today, Katie? You well?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. We're
Awesome.
here. We're doing the things. It's
Yeah.
going great. So, Kate, Allie, and the 86 Mets. Now, for those who don't know, obviously I know.
Of course.
What are the Mets? They're
Okay.
football?
Yes. No.
Baseball?
So you've heard of the Yankees, right?
Yes.
So the Mets are the other New York baseball
Of course they
team.
are, yes.
But can I curse?
Absolutely.
Okay,
you
yeah,
can say
they're
anything you
fucking terrible. And they basically break the hearts of their fans year after year after year. And in 1986, they were absolute magic. And they won the World Series, and they have not won since. Although I will tell you, the play is based on my two moms, and one of my moms, Dorothy, who is probably the biggest Mets fan in the world, tells me that it's their year this year.
This year?
Yeah, she says this year.
I mean this with all respect, but don't all sports fans say every team, this is their year?
I believe so, but I think the slogan for the Mets is "You gotta believe," and so every year they just believe.
There are worse things to believe in.
Yes, true.
So who are Kate and Allie, and how do they intersect with the 86 Mets?
So Kate and Allie in the mid-'80s was a huge show in the United States, and it was a sitcom, and it was about two divorced women who decided to solve all the problems of single motherhood by moving their families in together and raising their kids in one apartment in New York City. And the reason that it's called Kate and Allie is because when I was 8 and my little brother was 4, my mom and her best friend, who were also divorced, decided to move their families in together into one house in Long Island in 1986.
So it kind of became a blended family before the term blended family existed, really?
Absolutely. And because of the show Kate and Allie, it was very easy for us to explain to friends and people at school and teachers why I was calling my mom's best friend Dorothy my other mom, and why I was calling her two kids my brother and sister. It was a very easy way to explain the living situation between my mom and her best friend Dorothy.
So how does the story begin? What's its origin story, and how does it begin?
So the story begins in 1986, in that summer, really when my mom and Dorothy had the idea to move us all in together. We had been spending a lot of time together over the past year, and they explained to us that they wanted to do this, and my sister smartly said, "Oh, do you mean it's like Kate and Allie?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's exactly like Kate and Allie." So the story begins there. But as the story progresses, it follows our family over 40 years from my perspective, and in some ways from my siblings' perspective, and the conversations that we had with our two mothers about their relationship. And it culminates about 2 years ago when, in a conversation with my mom on the phone, she told me that they had actually been in love since that summer in 1986.
That is something I wanted to ask, but I didn't quite know how to. So how did that affect the story? Did you have the story at that point, and is that where it came from?
So I've been thinking about this story for a long time. I'm a film and television producer, but I'm also a writer. And I was taking a storytelling class, which I actually thought was a writing class because I didn't know what storytelling was. But then I quickly found out it was verbal storytelling. And as I was taking that class, I told the story of that summer of 1986. And my teacher said, this is a solo show. Like, this is a 1-hour show. Lots of shows are based on less. And so I started to think about this as storytelling and what the scenes would be. And as I started to think about the scenes, I was really thinking about the moments in which I spoke to my mom, or my other mom, Dorothy, about their relationship, the times that I thought about their relationship. And at that time, I really didn't know exactly what their relationship was. And in a way, I didn't actually want to ask her because I wanted to be able to tell it through all those different times and all those different ages, having questions about what their relationship was and having that uncertainty. And I was also, frankly, a little bit worried about what my reaction would be. if it was a romantic relationship, not having known for that long, how I would feel about that. But it happened organically as I was working on the play. Is that okay, that audio? Okay. As I was working on the show, that sort of happened organically. And when my mom told me that they had been in love for that long, I was surprised by my own reaction because I wasn't angry, I wasn't hurt, I wasn't resentful. I just actually felt real joy for the two of them because I understood, them not wanting to tell other people. And I guess, I thought I would be hurt that they didn't want to tell me or my siblings. But I was just so happy that all of those years they got to be in love.
Yeah.
Love is a hard thing to find.
Oh, yeah.
And
That is true.
The fact that they got to spend 40 years of their lives with a person that they loved, I mean, that just made me so, I get a little emotional thinking about it, but I just feel so happy for them.
It is a very joyful thing, and that they didn't tell you must have felt like extra nice, like they kept it just kind of between themselves, and it was all they needed is for each other. Not that they didn't love you and the other kids, but that they loved each other. It was just something for them.
Yeah, and I think I felt even more like I wanted to tell this story when I found that out because of my reaction, that was pure joy for them. I felt like I could tell the story with a paintbrush of love.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be twinged with anxiety or resentment or anger. And I think that that's what that story deserves. And also, over the last couple of years, I've done a lot of projects that deal with queer love. And in particular, we had been working on a film called Sally for National Geographic that came out just this past summer. It premiered at Sundance this year. And it was the story of Sally Ride, who's an astronaut who didn't come out during her life. Yeah. She didn't come out until her obituary, where her widow put in the obituary that she was survived by her partner of 27 years. And Sally and her partner Tam had talked about this, and Sally had given her blessing, and she told Tam that she should write and come out as she felt fit. And I was really touched by this story, and I felt so parallel to what my mom and Dorothy had been through. And so when we were talking about the press release, and we were talking about just internally at the company I was working at, I had a very specific view on the word courage, because I think, a lot of people would say, okay, it's not courageous because she had an opportunity to come out and use it as a platform and all of this stuff. It wasn't courageous for her to be in the closet for a long time. And I strongly felt the other way about it, because I felt like it took so much courage to even have that relationship to begin with, that I understood that it wasn't about risking a career or risking what other people might think, but it was about risking that relationship. So I feel like my mom and Dorothy chose to not share that with anyone because their relationship was so important to them. They were never going to risk that. And there were other real fears, like being two women who were together in the 80s and the 90s and being afraid about losing your children.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a real thing that was happening, and that was a real threat. So earlier, definitely, but then at that point, why would you risk it? It's the most important thing in your life.
Yeah. And I think that's something, how to say this, I think a lot of today's youth think, oh, it's just the 80s and 90s, it's not that long ago, but it was comparatively the dark ages.
Yeah.
I mean, even up until the late 90s, early 2000s, there were words which were used in hideous ways.
Yep.
And I think that's important to say to people. And do you think that's part of why your mum and Dorothy didn't reveal their relationship?
Yeah, I think there were all sorts of fears. And I saw that fear, and I talk about that in the show, too, at different moments in which they were kind of confronted with whether they were going to tell us or not. And I could see the fear that they had. And I think, there's a moment in which I talk about an article that was written in the local newspaper in Long Island in Newsday. And this is 1999. And my mom talks about their platonic relationship. And, to read that in print and see that this article was about smart families figuring out ways to solve like financial solutions. You know, blended family was sort of trendy and people were figuring out all of these different ways to do that. But even then, they didn't feel safe, clearly, to talk about their relationship.
Did it ever feel invasive going into this much detail about your mum and Dorothy's lives?
Yeah, I think, I thought about this a lot, and I had a very specific approach with them about it because I come from documentary, and I come from a history. I've worked a lot with HBO and with Netflix, and the company that I've worked with over the last 6 years with Dan Kogan and Liz Garbus. It's a culture of respect, and it's a culture of feeling very honored to be telling other people's stories. And so I learned with them and through the work that we've done, how do you honor the people's stories that you're telling and how do you make them feel safe? And I think part of that is transparency. And I think I talked to my mom and Dorothy prior about the show, and I let them know that I was going to do this show and it was about them and about us growing up and about their relationship. And they gave me their blessing. And because I've never done a stage performance before, I did the first performance in New York as part of a festival. I asked them if it was okay for me to do the performance without seeing them seeing the show. I wanted to make sure that, one, I didn't totally bomb and that they were there to feel that. And two, I wanted to make sure that audiences felt what I was saying and that it was a positive thing, because I didn't want my mom and Dorothy to be in an audience where it felt negative. Yeah. I wanted them to have a good experience with it. So I wanted to kind of test it out before they ever saw it. And my mom said to me something that really meant a lot. She said, "We've been watching you for, many years tell other people's stories in a really respectful way, and so we trust you." And I think part of it is definitely always hard, and I know this from documentary, of seeing your own story told. And I think that that's going to always a challenge. And so I tried to tell them as much in advance and prepare them as much in advance. And I asked them, how did they want to experience the show?
And Dorothy enjoyed the show. Was there anything when they were like, that's not quite how it happened? Or did they enjoy it?
I think they loved it, but it's funny because I've been talking to my mom and I sent her like the newspaper article because I redesigned it with my graphic designer because it was over 2 pages, so we wanted to make it more accessible because I do hand out a lot of props in the show, and that newspaper article is one of them. And she goes, "Oh, when is that in the show?" So I don't know how much she remembers. She's going to be here this week on the 13th and the 14th, and she's coming to the show.
Right.
They're actually all on a cruise around Scotland right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds so much fun.
So I think she's going to remember. I think she was so, just seeing it for the first time, overwhelmed. So it'll be very interesting for her to see it 2 nights in a row. She's excited about flying. So, look out for her outside of Gilded Balloon and the Royal Mile. She'll be the only 75-year-old flying.
Well, you say that.
Yeah.
Not so much in Edinburgh.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Here. There's a lass I was speaking to earlier, Emily Weitzman. Her show's called Furniture Boys. She's got a little bench around her neck. There are people with biscuits on their head.
Yeah.
All
sorts, yeah.
And you walk past and you think, somebody with a biscuit on their head. Okay.
Well, Grace will be out there. She told me she's looking forward to that. So, yeah.
That must be really heartwarming to have them come to the show. Although not immediately. They're off on a cruise. So
yeah.
We'll get to it. Was it a bit when you're like, oh, thanks, Mum?
Yeah, and I did it separately. My brother was here last week, and his wife and my niece, so they came to the show every night, and he's been helping me with new scenes and workshopping and writing, and he's a great writer, so we've been working on that kind of stuff together.
And that must be so helpful because you can only tell a story from your point of view, so when your brother comes in, it's like, that's not quite how that happened. It was a little bit more zippity-doo. Like, does that happen?
Oh, yeah. The first time he saw the show, he said, "You got all the dates wrong." And then when my niece, who's 11, saw the show, she said, "You got all the dates wrong." So we did fix one of the dates. And he also informed me that I did have a couple of facts wrong. But it's interesting because it is how I remember it. And, it's not scripted, actually. It is literally how I remember it each night. So it's a little bit different. And so some things I remember in a very specific way, but my siblings and my mom and Dorothy may remember it very differently.
Yeah, that's the thing about memory is
Yeah.
there's your truth, my truth, and the truth.
Yeah. And I think, being in documentary and having to fact check things so vigilantly, it's definitely made me question, like, what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to, being so vigilant with those facts for something that's going on television.
Yeah.
So,
And what is next for the play? You mentioned you work for HBO and Netflix?
I do a lot of, I am a filmmaker. I'm a film and television producer, and this is sort of the beginning of me working on my own stories. So I have this, and I have a television series that I created and co-write, and we're looking and meeting with partners in Ireland at the moment for that television show, which is scripted, called The Shamrocks. And for the play, I don't know. I think I would love to see where this play can go next. I definitely want to do a run in New York because there are so many people who want to see it there, and that's where I'm from, and it's a real New York story. And most importantly, I want my mom and Dorothy to see that with an audience and feel the love in the room. Even here, the reactions that we've gotten have been extraordinary. People just connect with it, and they want to talk for like a half an hour after the show. And I want my mom and Dorothy to feel that because it's their story. So that's personally really important to me. Because I'm a filmmaker and a writer, I'm working on the screenplay version of it. So right now it's about, a 50-minute show. So I'm thinking about what are the other scenes and how are the scenes that are in the play, how do they get expanded for the screen? And I was pitching The Shamrocks at the Galway Film Festival last month, but I ended up actually pitching this quite a bit as well as a feature film. So naturally, that feels like the natural progression to me, but also how can this play expand beyond me on a stage telling the story? I believe that stories can have multiple lives and multiple formats, and that each story finds its way. So I'm open to all ways, but I definitely think as a feature film and then personally doing it in New York are the top two things I'm thinking about at the moment.
The only issue with that is I understand MLB do not give their footage for cheap. So if you wanted to have any of the Mets,
no. And there's no footage of the Mets in there, and we would have to take out that from the title.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Same with Kate and Allie, who I don't know. I do know the producers who are looking at bringing that show back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. And I actually haven't even talked to them about it because, my show is not based on Kate and Allie. But it would be great to see that show come back. That would be extraordinary. We will definitely have to take Mets out of the title. Yeah. But we could still talk about them, and we could still love them and love how they brought our family together in some way, shape, or form.
What is it? No, that's for Jets. I'm thinking of Jets. Jets. That's for Jets.
Yeah.
Do we like the Jets? Did I just say something?
Oh, yeah.
awful?
My family is
good.
Definitely Jets. Jets and Mets, yeah.
Jets. Oh, I love the synergy of that.
Oh, yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram is best, KateBerry5.
That means there are 4 other Kate Berries.
I know. I just picked 5. But, I think there's many, many, many more Kate Berries, so.
There's a couple, 2, 3 Peter Greenwoods out there.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah.
Which is, one of them is like a voice actor in Australia. One of them's a glass blower here in Scotland.
Oh, well, that's cool.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah, you're in good company.
Yeah. So far there's been no bad Peter Greenwoods. Touch wood. I am probably the worst Peter Greenwood. I just speak.
Oh, no.
But thank you so much for your time, Kate. It was lovely.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the show.
Thank you.
Kate, Allie, and the 86 Mets are playing at Ruby at Gilded Balloon at 20 to 10 in the evening, every day until the 24th of August, not including Monday the 18th. For more information, go to edfringe.com and just search for Kate Barry. It's easier. For the Peter Greenwood Show at the Edinburgh Fringe, I've been your host, Peter Greenwood. We'll see you next time.